makes racial justice work urgent for you? This question came up 5 years ago, at a racial justice workshop that I was attending. The facilitator of the workshop had us break into small groups to talk about our answers. What makes racial justice work urgent for you? There was a buzz in the room as people began to share. I felt very self-conscious in that moment. As a white person, I'd never given that question real thought before. And in this racially diverse room I was in, I was feeling extra aware of my whiteness. I scooched my chair closer into my circle so that I could focus on what the person across from me was sharing about the violence of colonialism and the erasure of his own native Hawaiian people. When it was my turn to talk, I opened my mouth to speak, just as the workshop facilitator approached our group. She'd been floating around the room, listening in on different conversations. I got nervous. I stumbled over my words a little bit as I shared the best answer that I could come up with in the moment. Well, aside from all of the injustice in the world that, of course, makes racial justice work urgent, I recently left my job as a teacher, and all of my students in the school where I taught were students of color, and I saw everything they and their families would go through, and I think of them, and I feel the need to fight for a better world for them, was my answer. Before we could move on to the next person in my group, the facilitator looked at me thoughtfully. "That's great," she said. "But what makes racial justice work urgent for you?" Her eyes were steady and kind as she held my gaze. I paused, not sure what to say. No, I really love my students. I feel like they're a part of me, they're a part of who I am. I continued. "That's great," she said. And then she repeated her question once more. What makes racial justice work urgent for you? Her question has haunted me. She walked away to go be with another group before I could come up with a better answer. I was left with a pit in my stomach. What does make racial justice work urgent for me? It almost felt like a dangerous question to ask myself. Dangerous because what if I didn't have a good enough answer? What if I took a long, hard look at myself and found that racial justice work didn't actually feel urgent for me? What if? What would that say about me as a person? What would that say about me as a Unitarian Universalist? What makes racial justice work urgent for you? What makes the work of economic justice urgent for you? What makes immigration justice work? What makes environmental justice work? What makes gender and sexuality justice work urgent for you? Not urgent for others, not urgent for your loved ones, but urgent for you. Perhaps for you, the answers to one or more of these questions comes easily. Perhaps you feel yourself bumping up against injustices every day in your own lived experience. Perhaps you find your own well-being, your dignity, your life at stake with one or more of these questions. Perhaps that's what makes this work urgent for you. Or perhaps you, like me, have trouble answering one or more of these questions. What makes justice work urgent for you? Urgent for you personally. Does that feel like a dangerous question to be asking yourself, like it did for me? Some might hear that question as a challenge. A challenge demanding that we somehow demonstrate that we are indeed good people, loving people, people with conscience and morals. Listen, I'm on the right side of history. I can't help but wonder if that impulse gets in the way a bit. What is it that I'm trying to prove? Where is that impulse to prove myself coming from? What discomfort is driving me right now? How might that be getting in the way? That question, what makes justice work urgent for you? That question at its core is a spiritual question. It's not a challenge. It's not a litmus test of character. It's a question that points out the fact that justice work is important and urgent in our world, and we need to know that in our bodies, in our bones, if we don't know it already. The more I've sat with this question and with the discomfort that it brought up in me, the more I believe that our Unitarian Universalist faith guides me toward a meaningful answer. And that's the good news, my friends, that I share with you today. In a workshop at the 2019 UU General Assembly in Spokane, Washington, UU theologian, the Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt, who also is the sole nominee for the president of our Unitarian Universalist Association this year. She'll be voted on this summer. She was asked at this workshop what the meat of UU theology really is. What's the meat of UU theology? The Reverend Dr. Betancourt responded that to her, the meat of UU theology was this message, that we are all loved, and we are worthy of love, and we are safe together. She went on to say, what that means to me is that if you cannot express how you are with someone who is different from you in a way that models the complete worthiness of the love of that person, then you're not actually living out your faith. And whatever goodness and realization of your own living actually isn't complete until that person has the room to fully realize themselves as well. There's a lot packed in there, so I'm going to read it again. We are all loved. We are all worthy of love. And we are safe together. And what that means is that if you cannot express how you are with someone who is different from you in a way that models the complete worthiness of the love of that person, then you are not actually living out your faith. And whatever goodness and realization of your own living actually isn't complete until that person has the room to fully realize themselves as well. Friends, we can't realize our own goodness. We can't realize the full potential of who we are until everyone else can realize themselves and their goodness and their potential and their love fully as well. That's part of the interdependence that we are always talking about. We can't truly be living our faith until our relationships with each other and with the world reflect this worthiness and this love from all angles. Am I truly living out my faith? Perhaps that feels like a dangerous question. Perhaps I am afraid of the answer. But Unitarian Universalism calls us to have the courage to actually ask these questions and to seek out these answers. Maybe as we ask these questions, maybe we uncover some discomfort. Maybe we uncover some anger that this question is even being asked of us. Maybe we uncover some guilt around feeling like we're not doing enough. Maybe some of us uncover some shame around certain privileges we might hold. But our faith invites us to replace these feelings with some radical truth-telling. Being open and honest with ourselves about our relationships to others and to the world around us. When I've asked Unitarian Universalists that I know, what is it to them that is most important about their UU faith? I've found that I get two answers, usually. Two answers that are most popular. There are those who say social justice is the most important part of our faith. That's why I'm here. There are those who say spirituality and the spiritual message of our faith is what's most important, and that's why I'm here. But Reverend Dr. Bentoncourt's explanation of the meat of UU theology reminds us that justice and spirituality are not separate. They are a part of the same thing. A spiritual life that does not respond to the deep harm in the world around us, that's going to be lacking dimension, depth, and breadth. Justice work without the theological resources and spiritual foundation, that's not going to get very far. Your tank's going to run out real quick. One without the other just won't do. We need to be able to see the big picture of how both are intertwined. There's one episode of The Simpsons you might have seen. It opens with an ice cream festival at the Simpsons family church. Lisa Simpson is marveling at all the flavors available. Wow, look at all these flavors, she says. She starts listing them off. Blessed Virgin Berry. Command Mint. Bible Gum. Then the minister hands her a bowl, saying, or if you prefer, we also Unitarian ice cream. Lisa looks in the bowl and sees that it's empty. There's nothing here, she says. Exactly, says the minister. It's a short little scene that's poking fun at us Unitarian Universalists, teasing us by saying that we don't have anything we believe in. And I honestly think there's many UUs who would not see a problem with that, but myself and other UU ministers and theologians, we are here to tell you that there is something in that ice cream bowl, friends. And we have to know what's there in order to actually live into our calling as a faith movement. We got to know what it is we believe in. We as UUs, we don't have a creed. But that doesn't mean that we don't have something that we believe in as a faith community. Unitarianism was the name for the idea that God is one. Universalism is essentially the idea that God is love, and that love is for everyone. So Unitarian Universalism, one sacred love for all. One sacred love for all. You are loved and you are worthy of love. They are loved and they are worthy of love. We all are loved and we are worthy of love. Unitarian Universalism is a movement with love at its core. One sacred love for all. Having faith in this means knowing that if we live out this love, that is how we transform ourselves so that we can transform our communities, so that our communities can transform the world. Having faith in that means trusting that, even if we don't see that transformation in our lifetime. That's how we co-create the beloved community. That's how we find liberation for ourselves and for others. It's from this theological center that our justice work must arise. In the words that we heard quoted by Anastasia this morning, quoted and given context. Thank you, Anastasia. From Dr. Cornel West, justice is what love looks like in public. But it's not an easy love. It's too big to be easy. The love that holds the center of our UU faith needs to be deep and it needs to be wide. It is love for your neighbor. It is love for the oppressed. It is love for yourself. It is love for life. It is an abundant love. As we heard the Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis say in our reading earlier, it's a non-possessive delight in the world. At times a joyful love, at times a grieving one. And so what makes justice work urgent for you? Maybe for you the urgency comes with knowing that you cannot fully realize your potential as an embodiment of love until you are creating the conditions for all to fully realize their potential too. One sacred love for all. It is in the spirit of this holy love, I invite you to ask these dangerous questions of yourself today. For dangerous questions lead to courageous answers. So ask yourself honestly, am I truly living out my faith? Seek the answer with a spirit of radical truth-telling, not with shame or guilt or looking for the idea that you're doing something wrong. What does living out my faith look like? Seek that answer with curiosity. Wherever these questions lead you, may love be at the center of your journey, dear ones. And may you remember that we journey together with one sacred love for all. May it be so. Amen. Our closing hymn is number 131 in your gray hymnal, Love Will Guide Us. The words will also be on our screen. Marina will play it through once, and then we'll sing